Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be wrapping up my budget for the month of February. For this month I gave myself 75,200 rupees, which is the budget that I've been giving myself for a few months now, and I am trying to live within that, which is not possible every month. I go over budget a few months, and then there are only a few months I think where I stay on the budget. So let's see how February went for me. Out of the 75,200 rupees, I allocated 10% of it into my savings and investment category, and for these four categories I did put whatever I had budgeted for, so there will be no difference. So this is 7520, which is 10% of the amount that I budgeted with, so there is no difference. And then my next category is my fixed costs and utilities. And into this category, I had budgeted 42,710 rupees, which is 56% of the amount that I had budgeted with. Now let's get into each of the categories to see how did it go. Into my life insurance, I did put 2460. I pay my life insurance every 6 months. So this money will sit there until that day comes, and then I'll transfer that money. Into my siblings fund is 1,000 rupees. So there will be no difference as well. Into room rent, I did allocate 3,500, no difference. EMI was 15,000, and that is what got automatically deducted. Into LIC loan, I budgeted 2,000, and then I did put 2,000 rupees into my LIC loan. For ration, I budgeted 4,000 rupees, and this was what went into my ration as well. For subscription, I budgeted 1,250, but I ended up spending 1,199. So here I had a positive balance of 51 rupees. For petrol, I budgeted 3,500, but I ended up spending 3,800 rupees. For my petrol category, I always allocate 3,500 every month, and then in the beginning of the month, I fill the petrol to the full. That cost me around 2,700 or 2,800 rupees. And then towards the end of the month, when I know that I need to fill the petrol again, whatever money is left, with that I fill the petrol. But for February, I did not do that. Towards the end of the month, when I noticed that I needed to fill petrol again, I just went to the petrol pump and I filled petrol worth 1,000 rupees. And that is why I went over budget. 3,800 means I was over budget by 300 rupees. And let me write that with my red pen. For my hair, I allocated 500 rupees, and I did spend 500 rupees here, so there is no difference as well. For food and groceries, this month I gave myself 6,000 rupees. That's because every month I budget 7,000 rupees in my food and groceries category, and I always have money remaining, and I've noticed that I would spend 5,000 something, not even 6,000. So I thought, since February is a shorter month in comparison to other months, I thought let me try to give myself a budget that's lesser than 7. So I gave myself 6,000, but in this month I ended up spending 7,993 rupees. And so I went over budget in my food and groceries category, and that amount is by 1,993 rupees. And then for my workwear, I had budgeted 3,500, and I did put 3,500 into it. My workwear and all of the rest of the categories, which is my singing fund categories, the car maintenance, health and medical, pets, vacation, and my spending category, all these are recurring categories, which mean whatever amount remains in this category, that gets carried over to next month. The rest of the categories, if I have some money remaining, I like to adjust that into my goals, or also if I go over budget, I try to compensate those amount with the money that's remaining in these categories. Otherwise, for this, like even for workwear, even if I say I budgeted 3,500 and I allocate 3,500, that does not mean I spend the whole money. I still have money in my workwear category, that which I had carried over to the month of March, and then in March, whatever amount that I budgeted for my workwear, I added that into the money that which is remaining. Then coming to my sinking fund categories, I did allocate whatever I had budgeted for into each of the categories. Whenever the month is starting, I always look at what are the things that needs to be done and If there are any expenses that I'll be using from a sinking fund, accordingly I budget an amount and I put that amount into it. And whatever expense happens, that gets deducted from there, from the total amount, and I always have some money that I carry over to the next month. So here there will be no difference as well. And then for my last category, which is my guilt-free spending category, I budgeted 20,970 rupees, and here also I did allocate whatever I had budgeted for, so there was no difference here. So now I have to take into account these negative amounts. This will give me the amount that had gone over budget: 1993 in my food and groceries, and then 300 in my petrol category. That is, I was over budget by 2,293 rupees. I have a positive balance, so I will subtract that from here. That means the total amount that I had gone over budget was 2,242 rupees. This amount, the budgeted amount, is 75,200, and the actual expense that occurred will be 75,200 plus the over budget amount. That is 75,200. That is 77,442 rupees. So the salary amount is 32,200. That is what I had budgeted. And then from my private practice, instead of the 43,000 that I usually give myself, I had to adjust another 2,242. I took out 45,242 from my private practice to accommodate this overspending amount. So that will give us a total of 77,442 rupees. So this is how I spent my money in the month of February. I don't want to be taking out so much money from my private practice because the salary amount that will always be there to budget for the month as my living expense. But from my private practice, if I take lesser amount from my private practice, then I'll have extra money remaining, that which I can put into my goals, which is paying off my debt. So yeah, that is it for the budget. Now coming to my PPF, this is something that I've started to share again, that which I used to share before. For my provident fund, last month when I did my budget closeout for the month of January, I had deposited 38,400 rupees into my provident fund, which is 25% of the maximum amount. And then in February, I deposited another 4,210 into it. That gives us a total of 42,670 rupees, which is 28% of the maximum amount that you can deposit into the PPF in one financial year. And this is for the financial year 2024-25. I still have to add my March one. That will give me the total amount that I have been able to allocate this year into my provident fund. And then from April onwards, it will be the new financial year again. Now coming to my debt payment, I am working on 3 debts. One is a personal loan that I've taken from SBI, and this is an LIC loan. And then there's this construction fund that I took from my private practice emergency fund. So I'm putting back money there. In the beginning of the month, I started with 4,71,635 rupees in my personal loan, and I always pay an EMI of 15,000 every month. So out of that, 10,862 went into the principal, and then 4,138 is what went into the interest. So now the new balance that I have is 4,60,773 rupees in my SBI personal loan. The first time when I started paying this loan off, the EMI was 13,615, and just last year I increased to 15,000 rupees. And now since I'm trying to learn a lot about how to pay off my loan quickly, because I have this urgency, I just want to pay off my loan fast because I need to buy a new car, and that's very important for me. But before that, I want to pay off at least like 2 of these. This year I'm planning to implement some new tactics to paying off my loan. When I'm able to do that, then I'll share with you, because I feel like it will be better if I talk about it after I have done it. If I talk about it before I do it, then you don't end up doing it. And then for my LIC loan, I had a balance of 97,600 rupees. So in the month of February, I deposited 20,586 into my LIC loan. Out of that, 20,400 went into my principal amount, and then 186 is the interest that I paid. So now the new balance that I have in the end of February, that is in the beginning of March, is 77,200 rupees. And for my construction fund, I had a balance of 31,338 rupees to pay back fully to myself. And then in February, I deposited 6,000 rupees. So this is actually something I'm paying back to myself, so there is no interest or anything. So now the new balance that I have to fully pay off the construction fund is 25,338 rupees. So that is it for today. Thank you so much. If you're still here watching, I will meet you again in the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.